you just started the buying process and you're seeing all these beautiful houses online. Maybe you're checking out Zillow or one of our websites and you're like, man, these are cool. I want to see all of them in person. This is a video that's going to tell you why you're not going to do that. I'm AJ Baduke, and this is
Andrew Armonger.
And we are with the Emerald Group right here on the Emerald Coast. Listen, we are doing videos every week from Pensacola to Panama City Beach. So if you have any questions about the area or, in between those two areas, go ahead and give us a subscribe and ding the bell so that you get notified every time we do another video. We have been getting calls, texts, Facebook messages, comments, all kinds of communications, and we absolutely love it. So keep them coming.
When it comes to how many properties you should see before you write an offer on the one that you believe is the best for you, I think it's going to change a little bit depending on what you're looking for and your situation all around.
There's definitely going to be a difference between, an investor coming in and purchasing something that's just going to make them money. They're not going to live in it. I want to change that. You're not going to live in it. You're specifically looking at it for money-making purposes versus, if you're purchasing this to live in, and then is it something that you're going to sell again later, or is it something that is your forever home?
First, let's talk about our investors because, this one's going to be pretty quick. If you're looking at it, whether you're buying, let's say, a condo here on the water that you're looking to cash flow or an Airbnb/VRBO, short-term rental in general, or even if you're looking for long-term, the point of all of this is if you're an investor, it's really about the numbers. And numbers should be far more important than what you're seeing at the house. If you can see the house in person, obviously that's great. And other times, maybe you don't need to. If, of course, you've got a trusted agent on your side.
Many of our investors actually don't even see the properties in person pretty much ever. So they just rely on us. Sometimes we do virtual tours for them. Sometimes it's not even necessary to do a virtual tour. So if you're an investor, seeing it in person, not absolutely necessary, but it's going to depend on your personality. And we're absolutely fine going and doing tours for you, since a lot of times these investments are from folks that are out of town and not necessarily wanting to take a trip down here just to increase their portfolio.
Yeah, and I would say that's a little bit more common on the short-term rental and condo side. Whenever you're looking at long-term rentals, something that you're going to have a long-term tenant in, a multiplex of some sort or anything like that, most of the time, I would say probably maybe 50% of the time, our investor clients are actually seeing it in person or a video walkthrough. Of course, as anybody who has been investing any decent amount of time knows, it's not always possible to get into every property, particularly if you're getting it from a rental side.
Yeah, a lot of times they're just fully booked up and we're trying to squeeze in after the cleaners have been there, before the new tenants get there, and there's just a whole mess of things to try to navigate just to try to go and put eyes on something. But we do it.
And quick tip while we're at this, if you guys are doing that and you're noticing that it's harder and harder to get into these condos, because it is pretty common, especially during peak season or any short-term rental for that matter, you can always put a clause into your contract that the entire thing is contingent upon you viewing it and accepting it once you see it in person. And as the market is continuing to go in the direction it is now, you are going to see that becoming more and more viable. Used to, a lot of sellers wouldn't take it because, they had 10 offers to choose from and there was one person always willing to not care what the inside of the property looked like. But that has since changed just a little bit, so you can get away with a little more.
Now, when it comes to our folks that are looking to actually live in properties, this is going to be more geared towards you now. Typically, what we're seeing is, at least for me, it's say an average of around 3 properties is what we end up showing total. That could be 3 offers are made also, or no offers are made until the 3rd. It just seems to be, on average, we end up showing about 3 properties to each person. So something that kind of leads to that is that while everything looks amazing in the pictures online, So we really only go and see the ones that you have an emotional draw to. You're like, this is the one. Like I could live here. I can see myself living here. I can see this working for all my needs. What we don't do is go and look at everything that's active. It's a huge waste of your time, and you won't remember what did you not like about one versus what you did like about another, and this one was kind of iffy, and then it becomes no fun at all, and you get what's called buyer's fatigue.
One of the things that we typically suggest with people that are coming down here to purchase is, it's actually kind of a hard and fast rule, is we won't usually show more than 5 in one sitting. Now, in rare cases, if you've got a short amount of time and there are just several properties that really hit everything that you need, and maybe there's more than that, because it does happen from time to time, all we do is make sure that there's a pretty decent break in between, as little as going to grab lunch and talking about everything that you already saw, or even a day in between is typically, a little bit better. The reason why we don't do more than this is because what happens, just like AJ was saying, is buyer fatigue starts setting in. You start mixing everything up. Hey, was that the house? Oh no, I think it was the one with the ghost in the attic. That's the one I really like. No, honey, that one didn't have a roof. Like, these are the actual kind of not actual conversations, but some of the style of conversation that goes on after you see too many homes, and ultimately you end up having to kick everybody out of their house again, get more time going to go back to see several of the properties just to help narrow things down. And although that's not the end of the world, we don't mind doing it personally, but it is a larger waste of time for most people, and one of our jobs as real estate professionals is to reduce the amount of time you have home shopping. As much fun as that is for a lot of people, it's not very conducive to finding the right home, because as you're looking at more properties, let's say you decide I have to see 15 properties over the span of 3 days, and the one that you really, really like goes under contract. Well, now we didn't do our job. So that's the big reason. We're not trying to be sticklers on this, but it really does help, and it helps us get to basically the solution of your problems a little bit faster.
A lot of times we see this phenomenon where there will be a property, even if it's sat on the market for a little while, and you're like, oh, I've got a really strong chance at this property, and I don't need to be in a rush because it's already been on the market for a while, and then it's gone because there's this weird phenomenon where everybody notices the same property at the same time. I don't know how it happens.
I think I know exactly how it happens, actually, not trying to jump in front of that, but so what happens is whenever you're looking at everything in your price range, let's say you're a $300,000 to $350,000 person in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, right? And that's what you're looking for, and you've got that same grouping with 50 other buyers. Well, eventually all the nicest properties get eaten up in that price range, and then what is left is that one. So as you're seeing the best one in your area, I can, in whatever your price range, price range timeline, like everything, that whole umbrella, when you're seeing it, 10 other buyers are seeing it as well. They're also seeing that that's the best property. So I think that's the biggest reason, is just things fall out or it becomes the most desirable. Maybe they did a price change recently, or maybe the next 2 other homes that were upgraded even more, that had more amenities, just went under contract, and this is the best one available right now.
And that makes a whole lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, I've spent way too much time thinking about why, because I noticed the same thing. Like, it was just like, is this random? And finally, after pondering, that's what I think it is, because I would go back and actually look at the different properties that they had me. Like, that's the best one. Of course it went under contract.
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. So something that we like to do right at the beginning is really discuss what your needs are. Not just your wants, but your needs, and really, really fine-tune them. Figure out what it is that you absolutely need, and then discuss, icing on the cake type stuff. And then what we try to do is only look at those things that are going to make you smile when you think about living in them. We don't want to go look at something that you're like, well, maybe this could work. We just want to check it off our list. I've heard this before. We just want to check it off our list. No, you already checked it off your list. The minute you said, I just want to check it off your list, you checked it off your list. Like, that's a red flag house. Just go ahead and bypass that one.
That is, of course, as long as you're seeing enough that makes you comfortable, right? And as long as that number is not 30 or 40, because then your real estate professional probably didn't do their job. One of the things that we do in the buyer's consult, where we narrow this stuff down, and the reason why the amount of homes that we show are so much lower, because I'm sure there's people out there that are like, well, I looked at like 17 houses. I look at 23 houses. It was like that early on in my career as well, because I wasn't diving deep on what the person wanted. So that's one thing that we really do, is whether it's on Zoom or in person, you can schedule that right here. We throw our phone number up here for you. You can schedule anytime. But what we do in that hour or so, depending on how many questions you have, is really dive deep. Really, really deep. Because if you're looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath, well, well, great, you got 152 options. But if you're looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath with an office, a 2-car garage, enough space in the back for a she shed and a pool, but you don't want a pool now, but you want the option to build on it, well, now your 152 options just got knocked down to 3 or 4 to match everything you need, and one of those 3 or 4 is the best. So why not look at the ones that match everything that you want first and make your decision there instead of, looking at all the B properties in your eyes. Not saying that any other property is less than another, but you get my point. So I am curious, for anybody that has purchased a house in the past, how many properties, or estimate if you don't know for sure, how many properties did you look at before you found the one that you ultimately ended up purchasing? Put that down in the comment section below. We love having little conversations with you guys. And I guess we'll see you next week.